So Manipur is where it's bordered with Burma, and as you can see, it is also surrounded by Bangladesh, and on the Northeast India, that's also like border with China over there. So Nepal, Bhutan is very close by. Growing up in this beautiful small mountain town, there were not a lot of resources and opportunity available comparing to the privileged and wealthy society and community or the countries. On the other hand, we have all the rich resources, culture, community, but my generation were taught to aspire to be Westerners because the Western lifestyles and information was easily available to us through televisions, Hollywood movies, magazines. So a lot of the time when I was growing up, I was left to think that we are not enough. And we have to do more. If we only work hard, if we only study harder, then we can achieve the Westerner status. Many of my friends think that I am very lucky to be here, and which I am in considering many opportunities that I have been receiving here. But I am learning a lot, and the way I understand about life in Western society has changed. And when I started learning about the huge division among the rich and the poor, and the social justice issue, and the race issues here, in this fast, expensive, competitive culture that we live in, it is really, really hard sometimes to ask, how do we live ethically and responsibly? How do we begin to question and say, I want to care, I want to share, and I want to give service to others because I can? How do we question those things? All this work that I have mentioned, to be a good neighbor, to be a caring person, to be kind, to give each other service, this work doesn't pay us or not paid enough, even if we get paid. But practicing those disciplines, I believe, achieves peace, spiritual, emotional, mental growth among us, and it keeps us hopeful. So in the looming news of climate and global refugee crisis, war, violence, and lack of social justice issues in many parts of the world, it would be costly not to ask, how should we live responsibly? My concern about social justice brought me to the Central Seminary in 2000, August, and that is where I met my professor, Dr. Ruth Rosell here. And tonight, I want to share what I have learned and why I care about fast fashion and its negative impact on society and on our environment. Like Jed has mentioned, that I love fashion and clothing is our basic needs. It's good to have nice clothing, but it is also good to know. So why do we need to care? I just wanted to, this is my disclaimer. I am not a purist. I sometimes compromise. And I'm learning to be, but I still shop, I still buy clothing, but I am learning to be more conscious about what I wear and think about people who are making my clothes. So here is the question that Robin Wall Kimmer, I'm sure many of you have read her book. In order to live, I must consume. That is the way the world works. The exchange of a life for a life, the endless cycling between my body and the body of the world. If we are fully awake, a moral question arises as we extinguish the other lives around us on behalf of our own, whether we are taking wild leaks or going to the mall. How do we consume in a way that does justice to the lives we take? So we all consume in some way, but this is the questions that we need to ask. When it comes to clothing, why does it matter to ask ourselves why and how we consumed? The global fashion market will grow from 106.42 billion in 2022 to 122.98 billion in 2003. Does that make sense? No? In 2003. Huh?
That didn't make sense.
This is the one of the, I got it from the earth.org. Do you want to come and read it?
2023.
2023. Sorry. Okay. All right. So, thank you. All right. As we look at this, that 1 in 6 of the world workers are employed in the fashion industry, and majority of those workers are female. An Oxford report in 2019 found that 0% of Bangladeshi garment workers, which are mostly women, and 1% of Vietnamese garment workers doesn't earn a living wage. These prevent workers from saving money to have safety net while working from alternative employment. Often women start their daughters working in the factory as young as 10 to help feed their family because one wage is inadequate. Being trapped in this cycle makes women increasingly more subject to sexual abuse because they can risk the loss of income by responding misconduct, with 1 in 4 Bangladeshi garment workers disclosing some form of abuse. That is a report in Oxford. And not only that, as you can look at this slide, the toxic water, the polluting water that is releasing, this is in Bangladesh. This was a report in New York's time that this is in near people's houses, and they are getting sick, mental illness, muscle dysfunctions, tensions, and heart attack, to name a few. And if the garment industry can earn that kind of profit, I bet if we work really hard, the women who are working there and who are making our clothes can have the living wages. All right. The other cause is the environmental cause. According to the Business Insider, fashion production comprised 10% of total global carbon emissions. as much as the European Union. It dries up water sources and pollutes water stream, while 85% of all the textile go to dump each year. Even washing clothes release 500 tons of microfiber into ocean each year, the equivalent of 50 billion plastic bottles. One of the international report found that the three main drivers of the industry global pollution impacts are dyeing D-Y-E-I-N-G, and finishing, yarn preparation, fiber production. The report also established that fiber production has the largest impact on fresh water. The water that is diverted or withdrawn from the surface water or underground water sources, and ecosystem quality due to the garden cultivation. While the dyeing and finishing yarn preparation, fiber production stays at the highest impact on the resource depletion due to the energy intensive process based on fossil fuel energy. So, not only that it is polluting our water, our soil, but it is also becoming a huge waste issue. This is the mountain in, I won't try to pronounce that, but this is in Chile. This can be even seen from the satellite, the amount of clothing they have trash in this desert. And most of these clothing, one of the research say that it's new from the company like Zara, H&M, the one that is not sell, they ship it out to the place and then they just dispose it there. And in Eastern Europe, like Bulgaria, they are getting lots of donation that some poor people are burning them to keep the house warm, increasing the air pollution. And so all these things, the things that I have mentioned, the environmental costs and the social justice, why do we need to think about what we wear and what kind of material is helpful not only for us, but for our planet and for the people who are making our clothes. So these are some of the things that we can look for, and what is most of our clothings these times are made with polyester. Let me go back to that other slide. And polyester is a huge environmental disaster because it is cheap and it can produce very fast, but it releases a lot of microbes in the water and in the air and even in the mountaintop. And I have asked John to help me a little bit on this because he is more, he has done more research on the plastic and about polyester. So John, would you like to jump in a little bit on the polyester, effects of the polyester?
I don't know if anyone on Zoom can see the slide right now. They can. Okay. So the list on the left are the plastic fabrics that are used to make clothing. They don't typically advertise on the label.
Over a little bit, just so you're behind the podium.
So the list on the left are the fabrics that are made of types of plastic. It's a little incomplete at the bottom there. They don't mean true fleece, which is made from wool. They mean polyester fleece, which is everywhere these days and is actually the worst as far as shedding plastic microfibers, just because of the nature of the fabric. The more loosely woven the fabric, the more it's going to shed the plastic microfibers. Tightly woven fabrics like nylon still shed, but at a lesser rate than the loosely woven fabrics. So those are all made from plastic. As I started to say, they don't advertise that on the label, but those are types of plastic. And plastic never truly biodegrades, not at least in any meaningful time frame for human life or other life. So when those fibers are released, and the particular problem with clothing plastic pollution is that it begins as tiny fibers, whereas a plastic bottle, if it's properly disposed of, should not be fragmenting into little tiny microplastic pollution. But the very process of clothes wearing out as they're worn, as they're washed, as they're dried, results in the release of tiny fibers of plastic.
Thank you, John. So this is a chart that I took out from the Story of Stuff project. Do you guys follow? Yeah, and so when you buy clothing, you can look at some of these guidelines yeah. All right. So there are some of the things that even if we have to buy a polyester clothing or nylons, there are something that we can do. Do I need to read out this for the Zoom? Okay. I don't have to, right? Okay. All right. All right, so here is what I wanted to talk mostly about. Like I have shared my story. When I started to work here in 2002, I was very happy that I can be like Westerners or American, and so I started to shop like one. I go to the mall and I buy my clothing according to the seasons and the colors. When I was back home, that doesn't matter. We just got what we wear. Oh, we wear what we got, and so I started to buy clothes seasonally, whether I need them or not. And my tiny closet in my studio apartment was filling up. And I started, I mean, and it was not only filling up, but it started to get cluttered. And I would get like sensory overload because I'm an introvert, the person, and it was quite the opposite of what peace and happiness means to me. I thought buying all of those will make me happy and joyful. So I wasn't very sure that I was struggling with that. And when I went home for a break in my hometown, my brother bought my sister-in-law a very nice shoes for a Christmas gift. And the joy that my sister-in-law expressed was like very contagious, and it was a pure joy because they don't have this abundant, and they don't have an access to all the things that they want. So when they got something, the joy that they expressed was pure. And I look at her and I was like, oh my gosh, I want to feel that joy. And I used to be like that when I was young, when my parents brought us only one dress a year. That was Christmas time, right? So after the Christmas, in January, we will start, my younger sister and my friends, we will start thinking about what kind of color we're going to buy for the next year in December. And so there is that joy and there is that anticipation, which makes us like old and wonderful about life. And so I look at my sister-in-law and I thought about like, I came back here and I started to think about, I know the fast fashion already, and I know the scene of an overconsumption, but I never knew that was impacting me that personally. And so what I am doing right now is like we have talked about it in the previous slide, that we all need to consume. We all need to buy things. That's the way our life is. But how do we do that? So this is some of the discipline that I am following. Buy less, choose well, and make it last. That's something that I am following now. So this is also some of the questions I asked when I wanted to buy things, or when, especially when it comes to the events or wedding, or like if I have to do some kind of a public speaking, I want to have a clothing that looks nice. So, but then I have a lot of them. I already had a lot of them, and so this is some of the questions that I will intentionally ask now. Do I really need this? Where were these clothes made? Who made them? Who are the workers? How are the workers treated? Are they being paid living wages? How are the clothes made? What are they made from? And what are the consequences in air, water, and soil pollution? As I process through these questions, then there is a lot of things that just comes up, and the things that I was not aware of as I consume things, a new thing, a lot of the things just comes out and it slows me down, and it makes me mindful, and it invites me to look and think about others. This is one of the greatest struggles that I faced. When I started knowing about fast fashion, I decided like I wanted to not buy any clothes, but then in turns I turned into secondhand, and it is more shopping, right? Because it is coming out from the fast fashion, so it is being away from the fast fashion. So secondhand is one of the struggles that I struggle. If you all struggle, then I just wanted to table that in. Sometimes for me, it is to whitewash my guilt, like not going to the mall and buy this. And another thing that I have written in my story is that the donation. I work with a lot of refugee, young and old women. And when we were doing upcycling projects, there was we got a lot of t-shirt donation, some of them are brand new, but it is for the run, like the family run reunion and some kind of an event. So they can't wear that anymore. So they come and donate it to us to upcycle. And so when we were cutting that, one of the shirts, one of my high school students, 17-year-old from Congo, asked me like, why are we cutting this brand new shirt? This is really wasteful. And I never looked at it that way before, but for people like me and like the students who come, who don't have a lot of things, that is something very wrong thing to do, right? And so my question to anyone who is concerned about this fast fashion and who is concerned about the social justice issue and environmental issue is, do we really need to make t-shirts for everything? Or I don't know, right? So that are some of the questions that I wanted to ask. It's not only t-shirt though, like the anything that we are making, and talk back is another things too, like there is like a talk back that you see, and you, when you go to even environmental conferences, right, you will get a talk bags, but then we look at the world, and our ocean is filling up with trash, and so those are some of the epic, and I am not blaming anyone here, and I'm not blaming the shoppers or who are making these. There is one of my friend argued that when you make a t-shirt, then you are representing the organization, and you are advocating for them, right? And so I think those are some of the things that we all, as a person who believe in justice, as a person who believe in healing, those are some of the questions that we all need to ask. We have the privilege to ask that question. Okay, so these are my personal struggle, and that is the reason why I'm sharing this, because I struggle a lot with this. Okay. This is another one. When I say that, you know, I want to dress up when I do an event, or I want to go to the weddings, and that, even though I have a nice dress, the things that come to my mind quickly is, but that's all. And people will notice that I'm wearing that for second, third, fourth time. Does that really make difference? I don't know, but in my mind, because I live in America, right? And so that is something that I struggle with, and I am trying to think in terms of, like, I can never be like Julia Roberts, right? Even if I want to, or I can never be like you. And so those are some of the things that I'm working on. And here is another one. I come from a very community-oriented culture, right? When I cooked with my three sisters, plus my mother. One chopped the garlic, one chopped the cabbage, one make the rice. So it is very community-oriented, and my friend can just pop into my place and do just jet things up, right? I come to Central Seminary, I get one studio apartment, and that's it. Like, I was there. I mean, even though there was a lot of international students, we are all in a room, and it was, the loneliness was very, very hard. And so I needed to have a human connection, even though they are strangers. So I go to the shopping mall just to see people. And so what I tell my friends who are single is, you know, like, let's make time to have tea instead of just like going shopping, and share stories and share like anything that is going on in our life. So yes, if you have somebody who are living alone or struggling with loneliness, these are some of the things that, you know, like I know a friend of mine struggled the same thing about loneliness and shopping. Okay, so this speaks to all of us, right? If you have enough to wear and resources to share, I ask you to support women and girls education, mental health center, domestic violence shelter, and support organizations that are working to end fast fashion. Like we talk about that in the garment industry, a lot of the workers are women, and they don't have a lot of voice. So even if they're abused, they will just be quiet. But then there is a lot of research that is out there that if you educate and empower women, then you can they are resilient in nature, and so they can do a lot of work. And that is what I am doing at Stitching Change, that we work with 15 refugee women and girls, and we are training them in sewing, digital literacy, leadership, and a lot of our students are leaders and are mentors to the newer ones. And so that is one of my commitment and my calling. So now the fast fashions, I am learning how to mend and repair with all the clothing that I have. And one of my friends here that who came, do you want to stand up and say? Oh, no. I knew they were going to but that t-shirt was in my top before I see this t-shirt. Okay. So some of the upcycling things that we do, and I was just so very happy to see this, that, like, I think we have enough clothing in this world, in this planet, right? So we need to learn how to repurpose more and how to mend more, how to repair. And in repairing, thank you. In repairing and mending, there is a lot of emotional, spiritual healing there. I have seen it. Difference. Let me go down to this. Couple of weeks, 3 weeks ago, I was at the all practice in Kansas City for the 7th graders, and they wanted to know what we are doing at Stitching Change, and so I'm very sure whether they will be ready to hear about the textile waste and fast fashion issue, but they proved me wrong. Yes, many of them know what the mass production is doing to our environment and to our to the society. And a lot of them knows what fast fashion is. And they are really wanting to work on that. So this gives us hope, right? That she's not here to see what I have become, but her works continue on. And I do think that in spite of all the difficulties that we faces, we are making difference, and this group will continue on. And so that's the, I would like to end that by sharing that, and I thank you for giving me this time, and we can share ideas. We have time, so we can share ideas and what you are doing. And I would like to have a lot of discussions and share ideas what we can do better. I forgot to mention that I am not an expert in this topic, but I have been studying about this for 8 years now. In terms of like repurposing, mending, where do you learn? Do you know how to mend? Do you know how to repair? And do you know how to sew?
I have a friend that wrote a book about her mother, and what her mother passed on was what she learned from her mother. And I'm thinking, well, that works really well for me, because I had, I had a grandmother that got very angry with me.
Yeah.
When I didn't eat something, she would eat all the leftovers, even though she had plenty. She would eat everybody else's food because you do not waste.
Mm-hmm.
And that was foundational for me. I always tell people I do not waste, but I do. This is a whole area, Rakmi, that I don't think I've done very well, but I do know how to sew. And I know that young people need to know that. So we grandmothers or mothers, or I know a lot of men that I don't know a lot of men. So I know some men that sew. So I'm not trying to be, what's the word? We can probably teach much better than we are. Now, I've kind of, I'm feeling guilty because my Holly, that John knows very well, always wears thrift clothing, and we we've done that as Christmas gifts for many years.
Okay.
That's what we do. Darn it, I just told myself for my 60th wedding anniversary, really cute, I need a new dress, and I'm just now deciding I don't. I don't.
No.
Nobody's seen my wardrobe as it is. So you're precious, Rakmi.
Ah, thank you, thank you. Yeah, in the flyer that we made, John helped me make this too. So one of the things, what can you do is check your closet and shop there first before you go buy is one of the things that I am doing. And I spoke at the Portland Presbyterian, South Portland Presbyterian Church yesterday morning. And I began, like it's the habit now. I began to think about like, oh, clothing, what do I wear? And so I immediately go and I found a nice black dress that I bought when John and I were first dating. And so I wore it yesterday and it was just much more like calming. I don't have to go drive to the thrift store to look for another clothes, right? So yeah, Carol, there's that in there. Okay, shop your closet first. How many times do we have? Jen?
I just wanted to say,
No, we've got, no, 5-10 minutes.
Okay.
no, I grew up the same way. I came from a large family, actually there were 10 of us. And I'm 10. I was number 10, there were 12 of us really. But the same thing happened, except I got one more dress than you did. We got one for Christmas and one for Easter. But the only pair of shoes, one was a dress shoe and then the one for school. So, but it does make one, when that person grows up, want to buy and buy and buy. Because I did that same thing when I first started working. Because all the things that I had were hand me down. And so to get new clothes when I started working. And now the thing goes now is to stop my daughter from buying clothes for me. She buys and buys. And and one of the things, maybe she is a single and lives alone. And it's so easy to shop online, if you don't have anything else to do. So
Yes,
she
yes.
does a lot of that.
I forgot to mention the trend here, and that is a good point, and that is the reason why I want us to have this conversation. I really admire my husband when he do the public speaking because his heart is very good, but I am not that. I am more good in having this kind of conversation, sharing story, and you brought a good point that because of the pandemic, the online shopping has increased, and there is a company that just came out. There is a company that just came out, I think, in 2020. Shane is a Chinese company, and they are the top right now. I think much larger than Amazon. So, and this is a global phenomena, right? Like when I was back home, I don't know, like I have the Bazaar magazine and the 17 magazine in that small mountain town. We got that. The Vogue, we got that. I don't know how it comes. And so, but then now, whatever you have it here today in Kansas City, my niece and nephew are getting it there. So they have started to like order things from online and asking me whether they can ship it here because the shipping in my small mountain town, it's very expensive. And so that is something that I think we as an older generation need to think it very hard. Not because, I'm not, that we spend more time with our daughters and our grandchildren so that they don't are too hooked up in their technology. And it's, yep.
Go ahead, there's a question when you're
Okay.
ready.
Yes, Terry.
I had a friend before he passed away. I knew him for about 40 years, and I guess he influenced me more than I was already influenced, not to be a slave for fashion. And the story I tell about him is his attitude was if both of his socks didn't have, his socks matched if they both didn't have holes. So he's kind of my role model.
Okay, that is really good because when John and I were in New York, Heather Etrikens came, and her husband was wearing a different color of socks, and Heather told me like, this is resisting fast fashion, Rakmi, and it was so cute. You know, it just looks trendy, right? And so Jerry, thank you. Yeah.
So Rakmi, we have a question from Zoom. It says, how do we find out if clothing is fairly made?
It has to be certified. I mean, even though it's a fair trade, it has to be certified. And each of them, I think and I have a handout here that they can all go, like, you know, the company that they, so, and in each of the like clothing label, they will say it as certified or like fair trade. Does that answer the question?
Reality is most isn't.
Yeah. But it is very, very expensive to get certification too, like a fair trade certificate, a long process. And so like, we just have to be smart about it. Yep, John.
Didn't really talk about that slide.
Oh, so is that enough? Okay, yeah, and then for those of them who is not, I can email them. Okay, this one, look at this chart here, right? I mean, there used to be only 2 cycles. Now there's 50 cycles per year. And so I have given you here some YouTube documentary. If in one of there, it's like talking about the company Zara, who is like started in Spain, and what they are doing is they are trying to make clothes within 12 days. So their shoppers are visiting their stores like at least 17 times a month, and they take out their clothing out and then put in more new so that people will think that I'm going to miss this. So this is one of the trends that's happening, and then we need to pay attention to. And this is the reason why it is so important for us to be mindful and think as this is our spiritual practice while buying clothes. Okay, any other stories? Yes, please.
My granddaughter graduated from high school, and I thought the other grandmother was asking about what to wear. She was coming up from Florida and all focused on that. And I thought, well, gee, maybe I better get a new dress too. I was comparing because other grandma was going to have, and I ended up wearing something I had in my closet. And guess what? My granddaughter graduated, and I enjoyed the celebration. Didn't need the new dress.
And you were in peace of mind? Were you peaceful?
Yes.
Well, so yeah, thank you for sharing that. Keep sharing those kind of stories, and that, like, you know, will help us understand that we don't have to be brandy all the time, competitive all the time, because like I said, it changed the way I think, and it is a habit, right? So the more we share these kind of stories of like the peacefulness and the joy, I think the more there is hope. Yeah, Jerry?
Many years ago, I saw a T-shirt that said, I tease my wife by reminding her of this T-shirt. It says, I shop, therefore I am. depart.
Yeah.
Rakmi, could you tell us what stitching exchange means?
Stitching change. That's okay, that's okay. So yeah, we need some volunteers who can teach us like mending and repairing, and anyone who knows how to do the visible mending or visible sewing, which is very popular in Japan. Like they do a lot of it's called sasiko. I think the way they do mending. So it is more like when you mend the cloth, it's like a style, but it's visible thread, and it's a huge style right now. So if
I'm
any
not sure what you say. A thread?
visible mending,
Oh,
yeah.
is it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, gotcha.
So yeah, so if you know anybody that knows how to mend or how to like repair zippers, and we are opening up this to not only to our students, but anyone who wants to learn. And we are in Kansas City, Kansas. So yeah. Okay, does that answer your question? Yes, okay. Yes. Dr.
Oh, I have a question. In your, apart from fruit stores, are there stores you found that carry more of the fabrics that aren't made from plastic? You know, cotton and linen and, or maybe other people
Yeah,
have ideas too. I find it very difficult to find something that fits and then isn't one of these plastic
I know.
fabrics. I don't know,
Yeah.
so much of it is.
Sure.
You know, if anybody has found stores that
Anyone? Did you find any store that sells like maybe like 100% cotton, linen, bamboo?
I find it here and there. I don't know what else. Anything,
No, I don't. I mean, I know that Donna Dress in 39th Street, they are conscious about, is that Donna, John? Yeah,
that's just.
on the 39th Street, they are very conscious about this. And so I have never been there because I think their price are, so anyway, but they do have like a vintage, very high quality vintage, and so they might have, I shop at the Second Santa Fe in downtown Overland Park. It's
10,000.
She's thinking.
The second hand.
On Santa Fe.
yeah, Second Santa Fe. Yeah.
Secondhand.
So it's small, so you can look at it like, and then you can look at your labels
What
like
is it again?
Saks,
Sack?
but then SACKS,
Oh.
Saks on Santa Fe.
so. That is some of the small thrift store that you can like pay attention and take time and just look at the labels that way. So I don't have any store that just
Years ago, there was a store in Waldo that was organic, all that kind of thing, but I guess it just wasn't a profitable enough business because it
It didn't last
years
very
ago. I forget what it's called. I used to shop there on occasion. I don't know of any stores that focus on that now. Something like 10,000 Villages, which was already mentioned. I didn't see hear exactly who mentioned it. The clothes they have are like that, but they don't have they're not a clothing, so they don't focus on clothing. They don't have a wide selection of clothing. And you'll find some things in like health food stores, but again, those are not clothing stores. I don't know of stores that are clothing stores that really put emphasis on this in Kansas City. I'm sure there are in other cities. Typically, you have to go online to find this stuff.
yes, Jerry.
I have a question that's maybe more for John. I know that Bridging the Gap accepts clothing. I have a large box full of fabric that is beyond gently used, and I'm not sure what to do with it. What do you really do with your clothes?
So we no longer accept stuff that's worn out. Okay, because we lost our clothing is really difficult to recycle
Okay.
because there's so many different kinds of fabric. There's no automated way to separate them the way they have automated methods to separate your curbside recyclables. So it would be very labor intensive to go through it. And then you have the really complicated problem is so much clothing is blends of different materials. It's really complicated to do textile recycling. And I don't know of anybody who does it profitably in the US.
So today I drove past a parking lot that had two containers. One was for clothing, the other was for shoes.
Those will often say recycling, but they don't really mean recycling, they mean reuse. And a lot of that stuff, unless they verify that it's staying domestically, a lot of it gets shipped overseas and it doesn't all get used. Rakmi showed the photo of the Atacama Desert there with all that waste clothing dumped, open dumped. She talked about in Bulgaria where it's cheaper to buy clothing and burn it to heat your house or to cook than to buy fuel.
Yeah.
Because it's so abundant, all this waste clothing from more industrialized countries.
Is there any, we used to, at least I thought they made mattresses and things out of old fabrics. Is any,
Sometimes clothing can be used to make like insulation. That would be the most common downcycling for clothing.
but it's still, all those microfibers are still gonna be dispersed.
I think typically they use cotton to make like insulation. So like old denim, they would use to make something like included plastic. I mean, there would be no way to keep the plastic out.
I saw the video about soil, that if soil has an abundant microorganism community, you can bury cotton grease in the soil and come back a few months later and it will disintegrate.
And cotton certainly is a plant fiber. Of course, briefs are going to have something stretchy, which is made from plastic, and that might not be visible, but I doubt the microbes are eating that. Although there are some microbes that do eat some plastics.
From where did the term fast fashion come?
This was in 1990. 1990, this was actually, I think, they were trying to counter the, do we say that in English, counter the expensive designer clothing? So the fast fashion come up to counter that, like, you know, we can be like a star and you can wear this. And so that is but then it turns into like very fast, like a mass production. So when it started in 1990, it was well received. So yeah,
It was the knockoff market too. You remember that? There were TV shows, somebody would come out wearing the expensive fashion and then they show you this companies that look just like it. They cloned it.
so a lot of these, like, Jed, we are on time, right?
We are, yes.
Yeah. A lot of the clothing that's out there are not recyclable or not compostable. I mean, especially that it's made with the polyester. And even if it's cotton, it takes a lot of water and pesticide to grow cotton. And so, yes, John?
Conventional cotton.
Conventional.
And organic cotton.
Yes, thank you, John. Yeah. If you can't afford organic, I mean, secondhand is the way to go, but at the same time, I think my motto is tonight, I want us to think about this, buy less, right? And I think the more we think about these things, and this is the reason why, for me, sharing story is really, really important, because in our day and age, because we are so much connected to our phones and our computer, that it is such a luxury to sit down like this to hear about how you repurpose your skirt, how you made your bags. Are you guys familiar with the Krista on being, what's her full name? Krista Tippett. She has a podcast, and she invited Vivek Murthy, the 21st Surgeon General of the United States. And I thought this is very, very important for all of us to ponder if we have a young children or young friends in our life, that Dr. Vivek says this, in our time and age, the name of the podcast is called Healer. And he said when she asked about how do we become a healer, right? And so he said that I worried about what is right now, and the world tells us, our kids and all of us, that is to be successful. In order to be successful, you need one of three things: to be powerful, to be famous, or to be rich. But we all know people who have all three of those, who are wealthy, powerful, and famous, and profoundly unhappy. And so in order to change this, to bring changes in this kind of system, we need to spend more time together, share stories about our life and what we are doing, instead of just posting our pictures on Facebook, right? I do that a lot of the time because I have to connect with my family back home. So thank you for bringing your stories and sharing. And then if we have any more questions or suggestions, yeah,